Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we established that we're not breaking any state law or stopping Mr. Dudek from meeting his license requirement within the hours that are in this contract.
Any other questions from the council? Comments? I guess I'm not too clear on the specifics of what you would want to do outside of these hours. You said housekeeping. And in the letter it says inventory and office work.
Those are a couple examples, correct?
I can understand that an inventory at a junkyard might be involved firing up machinery to move things around while you're doing the inventory. Ed, you also made a comment that you'd like to be able to come in there on Sunday if somebody wants to get something out of the junkyard. I would assume that that also might involve machinery, and then you're basically operating. So what would be the I want to know how you think that there's a distinction between what you'd like to do, and I understand you'd like to be able to get there at 7 o'clock in the morning to do some paperwork, make a couple of calls, do whatever, and you'd like to be there after 5 o'clock in the evening to do the same sorts of things, finish up your paperwork, finish up some things, and then leave at your convenience, all right? But what is the distinguishing factor there? I mean, that's what I think that this council would want to hear.
Well, I have restrictions on there that I can't walk on my property at 7 o'clock in the morning because I've done it, and then I've been taken to court over it. It seems ridiculous. Anybody else in town could walk out on their property at 7 o'clock in the morning and nothing happens to them. But I have a restriction. I don't see how that's fair. If my trucks get in after 5 o'clock, I could be in trouble for that. Well, it's kind of, just recently on the highway, there was a tractor trailer that flipped over on its side. My truck happened to be behind it. He didn't get back till after 6 o'clock at night. How am I supposed to control that?
I understand.
It's just, I don't understand why I have the restrictions and nobody else does. I don't understand that, how it's fair. And I'm not saying I'm going to be open for business all these hours. I, as the owner, want to be able to go on that property whenever I want. And I don't understand why I can't do that when everybody else in town could do that.
Mr. Chairman?
Paul?
Just glancing through this, I don't see where it says that he can't enter his property. I mean, my understanding of this agreement is if he wants to walk around his yard or sit in the office at 2 o'clock in the morning, is there something in here that I'm just not seeing, or?
It says the gate has to be closed by 5 o'clock every night, and we do our best to do that, but sometimes, you know, my guys are stressing to get that gate closed at 5 o'clock. We're closed for business, but to get everything done and closed and out the door, it's hard, and it's not fair to them. It's like, I don't know any other business that closes the door at 5 o'clock and goes home. Do you know any business that does that? I don't, but I have to do that. I just want to be fair. I just want to be fair like everybody else in town. I'm only open for business from 8 to 5, but sometimes we're there after 5. Just like we put a nice new garage up. What if one of my guys wants to work on his own car after 5 in the garage? What is the harm in that? He's not making any noise inside the garage, the doors are closed. But according to this agreement, they can't do that. You know, I have a lot of good neighbors on my street that I get along with, they're friends of mine. If they said, hey, Ed, can I use your lift on Sunday morning? I want to pull a train out of my car. I could care less. But according to this agreement, they can't do that. And other garages in town that are in residential neighborhoods, they use their shops on Sundays. Nobody says a word about it. How is that fair? That's all I'm saying. It's not fair. I'm not going to be open for business. You know, I don't want to be open on Sunday for business, but sometimes I want to be able to go on that property if I want to. And I shouldn't have to be held under the microscope of my neighbor across the street. That's all I'm saying. I want to be able to show up on my property whenever I want. Everybody else in town gets to show up on their property whenever they want. Does anybody tell you what time you can go out in your garage and start your car up? Or go out there on your property? You're in a residential zone. I don't understand the difference. I mean, if it comes down to not starting up the loader on after hours, I can live with that. But other than that, I should be able to go on that property whenever I want.
Okay. If I could address Mr. DeMarco's comment, I think this is something that came up approximately 2 years ago when Ed was, I think it was literally taking inventory in the yard, and there were complaints. and there was the request that, that there be a more strict adherence to the 8 to 5 rather than just open that the open for business would apply to anything beyond that as well. That was my understanding. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago.
Yep.
Okay.
Mike?
Yeah, Mr. Dudek, that, you know, the points you're making are well noted. I hear what you're saying, and I think the rest of us hear it. It's not as black and white as I think it's being portrayed. Individual homeowners, yes, can do certain things that you can't do. You operate a business at your location. If I operated a business at my home, I would need a special exception from the town of Londonderry that would restrict my hours. So you aren't being treated completely different than other people who operate businesses from their homes when allowed by the Zoning Board of Adjustment. So it's not as black and white as it may sound. The difference that you have and the fairness that we have to balance is that you don't, it's not your home and your residence for single-family purposes. You operate a business there in the AR1 zone. And one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is the balance between public and private interests. And therein lies why your particular operation has a different set of operating guidelines because of the location and the fact that it happens to be in a residential area. And we've all gone over this before. You bought there knowing it, and the people bought across the street knowing it. So we don't need to establish that. But I just wanted to make sure you understood that it's not as black and white as it appears from the outside looking in because of the business there versus homeowners who do things at their homes.
So the other businesses in town that run in residential neighborhoods, they don't have any restrictions? They have restrictions that I'm not,
Yes,
like I do?
Yes, they do.
They
They
do.
do have
If they're
hours
operating
restrictions.
legally, i.e. they've gone to the town and gotten a special exception from the zoning board, then there are restrictions and conditions attached to those approvals. If there are people who are operating a business out of their home and haven't gotten a special exception, that's an enforcement issue that Frank would deal with separately if he got a complaint. But the answer is yes, there are restrictions and conditions. I've put many of those on in 7 years on the zoning board. Hours of operation, parking, you name it. Fencing for daycare centers, et cetera. So we have a pretty good set of guidelines for folks who want to utilize their home for business purposes, and it's very restrictive.
Frank, I have a question. If Ed is on the phone at 4:55 with a dealer and they put him on hold and he's still discussing, is he a violation if that call goes past 5 o'clock and he's working in the office? And there's nothing in here that would be able to have anyone complain if he's still in the office on the phone doing work after 5 o'clock?
No.
Is he in violation if he's there at 7 o'clock in the morning doing paperwork,
No.
or 9 o'clock at night?
No.
Or I think
Talking about
somebody
the
said
office,
2
I'm
o'clock
talking
in
about
the
going
morning.
out on the property, behind the gate.
And doing what? Because, you know, the whole thing comes down, Ed, to machinery noise, and your neighbors wanting basically quiet enjoyment of their properties.
Right.
And we know that
If I
this is
said I wouldn't fire up the loader.
well, we know that this is a position where, you know, the neighbor and yourself are both in conflict with each other because that's the way it is. You both bought across the street from each other. You know, a victim of that choice. Both of you are victims of that choice.